Hi, I'm Mike Coyle, and you're watching Insidexploration. Today I'm here with Dinesh Kandanchatha, who is the chairman of Windfall Geotek, listed on the TSX Venture under WIN. Dinesh, thanks so much for joining me today, man.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this interview. I mean, you've had so much going on in the background, and I know timing's been tough, but why don't you talk to us a little bit about some of the moves you're making and the proposed transition to Toronto to kick things off?
For sure. So as you know, we've been positioning the business to be an asset-based model as opposed to a services model, and that's it's taken some time, but we're very excited about where the business is going. And we just recently announced a very important partnership with Draganfly, and we're now setting up our capital structure to be able to take advantage of this massive growth in base metals, which are going to be driven by electrification. So in order to take advantage of that, we need to make some updates to our technology. We need to add more operational capacity and competence. And we need to really be working with the best and brightest in exploration globally. So that's the essence of our business plan moving forward. And a key part of that is taking advantage of the great talent in the city of Toronto.
So as part of the transition and what you're doing, you're going to be building out your team. It's pretty well known that you're adding some people. So what kind of people are you looking for? And do we have any names in mind yet, or is that still being kept under the radar?
Yeah, you'll see some stuff very soon. I'll speak to roles because I think that helps your audience understand how the business is pivoting from maybe being kind of more services exploration based to being a truly tech-driven company. So the primary folks that we're bringing in are technology folks. So we are looking to migrate our solutions so they can really take advantage of all of the capabilities of the cloud. We're also leveraging some of the really incredible innovations in machine learning. So we're bringing in experts from those domains. And we're complementing those technology experts with technical experts in mining, so geology, geophysics, geochemistry. So we're trying to build out a team that will be able to rapidly assess projects and determine if there are if there's a great potential resource there. The second part of our strategy is around adding in the operational competence. So as you know, because you've been around the block a few times, a great project is not a resource and doesn't necessarily mean a royalty or return for investors. And so we're in the business of building long-term value for our investors because this electrification trend is going to be a multi-year, I'm sure multi-decade trend. And a lot of the big impacts in terms of the upside are going to be happening over the next 3 to 5 years, but there's a really, really long tail on this. And we want to be in those right projects, and we want to be in the projects that go to production, not the projects that have not just the projects that have great potential. So that's the essence of our philosophy, and you'll see many things over the course of the next couple of months where you see people joining our team. We've got some pretty exciting and incredible people who we've been talking to about our business plan and are pretty excited about it. So we're looking forward to welcoming those folks over the next few months.
So you've recently, or not so recently, but announced a partnership with Draganfly. And I want to kind of talk about the landmines, but let's talk about how you're going to integrate them on the mining side first. We've heard about flying a suite of geophysics, but I mean, how are they going to fly a land package? It's like 1,000 square kilometers. It seems like a monumental task.
It is, and frankly, this is one of the kind of the great innovations that Cam and Justin, who runs his drone services business, has been working through with us. The essence of the combination between Windfall and Card's AI technology with their drone technology is that you don't anymore have to look at the entire land package. Yeah. And so what we really want to do is use our AI and public data to be able to shrink the area of interest. And once the area of interest is down to a size that's manageable, we can then leverage Draganfly's technology to do data augmentation. And data augmentation is what's going to really give us that high level of confidence, like virtual drilling. Think about it, right? So now you're able to, and we've been working very closely with Draganfly's hardware team about how do we create sensors that are going to meet our requirements? How are we going to work with their drones and their pilots? And I'm very excited about this data augmentation piece, because I think two things will happen. We're going to have higher and higher quality targets, and we're going to be able to do it for 10 to 15% of the cost of what it might be in a traditional model.
That's incredible. So this partnership with Draganfly is opening a lot of doors, and one of those doors is landmines. It's no secret. You guys searched for a partner in this regard for a long time. So why Draganfly?
That's a great question. We were dating a long time, and more than 2 years. And the thing that Draganfly brought was not only the drone capability, but that world-class engineering. And when we then discovered that they had the channel to market as well, it became a real no-brainer for us. And so we had to make it a no-brainer for them. And so that's where we've been focused. We've been trying to work on the business plan. Like I've said before, we went to 4 different partners before we were able to get this strategic relationship figured out. Very complementary. They have world-class engineers. They have some of the best technology as it relates to drones in the world. They have access to some incredible pilots globally. They have a channel to market in the defense sector, and we have a channel to market in the mining sector. And so when you take the capabilities of both firms and you look at the 2 markets, it's hard for board of directors not to go, these companies need to be working very closely together.
Mm-hmm. And now that you've formed this partnership, and I'm sure you just kind of touch base on some of the connections that you have in the mining side and they have in the technology side and military for that matter. And obviously that's kind of where you want to go with the landmines. But we've talked about this before too. There's going to be other opportunities that present themselves, especially with Draganfly being integrated now, especially in the water aquifers and the oil and gas. I mean, now you have this host of geophysics that you'll be able to, or suite that you'll be able to fly over, these properties where you've previously identified something very interesting. Are there any other things that you've kind of floated the idea about looking into to utilize this partnership to your advantage?
We're always looking for application of our technology towards problems that are around ESG, so environmental and social type applications. So water is a huge issue for the world. We haven't done enough testing yet to be able to get to a place where I can have a high level of confidence in our ability to address it. But where we are at this stage is we've put the right inputs. So we have, like I mentioned, a great engineering organization that can build sensors. So the key thing in finding any type of material is you need the right sensor. And so we're working now on trying to kind of specify that. Then you need to have a method of going and deploying that sensor so you can do the remote sensing. That involves things like payload, and like some of these places there's wind and all these other factors. So looking and working with Draganfly to try to itemize those and de-risk those, that's on the table for sure. Right now, what we want to do is we want to get to that technical demonstration state with the landmines, with the UXO, unexploded ordnance solution, and our target for that is the fall. And if we can get to this technical demonstration phase where we can demonstrate to NATO or other defense authorities or NGOs, then I can have a high level of confidence that we can then proceed to the next kind of big problem. So we're doing the pre-work, we're doing the business case work right now. Water is right up there on the top of my list. There's other potential areas as well around construction and aggregates. But these are still kind of farther off views, but we're building our technology to be able to be deployed across these really big problems. When you solve big problems with something like the technology both companies have, you get a lot of scale, and a lot of scale equals great shareholders return.
Absolutely. So you're developing this as you go with Draganfly, but Windfall Geotek has had this algorithm or this AI for 15 years, and it's a machine learning, so it's constantly developing. But there's things that you can do to be more efficient, and you are actually implementing right now, by my understanding. So what are you doing to expand the technology?
You're right. So there's kind of three components to a successful machine learning or AI algorithm. One is you need to have data input, and you need to have lots of data. The other is you need to be able to put that data into a repository and be able to process it at scale. And then you need to have a data model, which is, a way of interpreting the data, right? So those are the three big blocks. We've done a really great job on the data model. The data model is proven, as you said, for the last 15 years. Where there's where I think a great opportunity is around data acquisition and around the types of data that we can process. So to make that practical, using the cloud so that we can leverage this incredible global capability with Amazon and Microsoft's Azure and all of the cloud computing capabilities that didn't exist 15 years ago when CARD's algorithm was developed. So, that's one huge potential optimization. The other is the growth of public data around the world. So there's tons and tons of public data. This public data is not in standardized formats. So it's hard for an algorithm to process them without a lot of kind of heavy lifting. You have to adjust it. It's kind of like, you go out and you buy a piece of wood, and then you have to cut it to shape so that it fits where you want it to be, right? Yeah. And so this is very similar to like lots and lots of data. You go out and pick up like tons and tons of this stuff, but in order to make it useful, you need to get it into the right form. And so that's the other major focus we have, is we want to create a data transformation vehicle that will allow us to ingest public data in rapid format, bring it to the cloud in a rapid format, and then allow our algorithm to kind of chip away at it. And we ultimately want to get to a place where geologists would be able to upload their own data in a self-serve format, and basically, we could then come back to them if we find a target and then partner with them. So this idea where we would be able to, increase the throughput of our projects, in an order of magnitude over the course of the next few years, I think will do three things. A, it'll make us incredibly valuable as a technology company. B, it'll allow us to pick the best projects, which generates long-term value for our shareholders. Yep. And then three, it'll start giving us knowledge and insight into the direction of electrification, which will really maybe put us at the center of this narrative around the transformation from the internal combustion engine to the electric motor. We can bring in, producers of commodities. We can bring in the power plant guys, the transmission guys, the solar panel guys. We can bring in then the distribution channels and be at the center of that conversation, because we'll be seeing where are the projects coming from, where is the next ethical source of commodities, where can you get maybe a low carbon or no carbon mine setup. So there's a whole bunch of interesting things because of our ability to see lots of different projects and data that we might be able to do in the future once we become kind of the standard where people go.
And as you advance this technology, what's your turnaround time right now, and what are you hoping to have for a turnaround time once you've kind of got all these things in place?
So today we're around 6 weeks or so, which is, longer than I want it to be, yeah. But maybe not so long in the grand scheme of things. My goal, as I've stated, is kind of 2 projects a month for this year. But if we can, get this thing really going, there's an opportunity to really move that up to maybe, something that might be double or triple that. Right now, it's about building that foundation. And once we have that foundation in place and we have the right technical architecture, a big part of the scale is just computing power. So then leveraging all of the computing power that's available, we will always, our algorithm is supervised. So supervised means there's always a geologist, a geophysicist, a geochemist involved. And what we try to do is, this idea of a differential analysis. So we let the algorithm come up with a potential target, and we want to cross-reference it against the VP of exploration. And where we both align that there's a potential target or a potential drill site, that's where we want to go first. So the more we can add capacity from a data perspective and then add capacity from a supervision perspective, the faster we can do these projects, the better the targets we can generate.
And see, I'm glad you touched on that, because in my experience in watching Windfall's growth and being kind of part of the story, I've come to realize that the one roadblock that Windfall has is, geologists are very apprehensive about allowing an AI algorithm to essentially, not really, but kind of do their job, or they're afraid of being replaced. But in all actuality, you really want the geologist's input to kind of line up with the AI algorithm and verify that, yes, this is the target you're going for. Have you found that, in your dealings with these geologists, as you've stepped into the role more, have you found that to be an issue?
Change is hard. It's just hard, right? And it doesn't matter whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life. Change creates uncertainty. Change, creates stress, and it's easier to do it the way that works. Whether or not it actually works all the time, we all have those little things in our lives. We go, that's going to work, and then our wives tell us, it never really works, right? And that's the way life is, right? And so a big part of what we want to do is we want to think about this as a second opinion, right? So you're the VP of exploration of a project for a reason, because the shareholders trusted you with their money.
That's right.
That's why you're there, right?
Yeah.
An AI can never replace that. A computer can never replace that. So where we bring value is where we complement that component. So there is you have a theory as the geologist. You've got you've got a scientific method. Do your thing, right? And come to a company like Windfall to do exactly what doctors do when they are faced with difficult problems. They go to people they respect and they ask them, what's your perspective? Do you see holes in my logic? Do you think that, would you come to the same conclusion when presented with the same facts? And if we can move the industry to that model, we all win. VPs of exploration win, shareholders win, and technology companies like Windfall win.
I agree. So you've got a private placement that you've closed now. What's next for Windfall?
It's we've got to be able to. That private placement is entirely tied to kind of getting this foundational stuff in place, and bringing on that new operational team and getting some kind of very interesting projects that we are working on across the line. And then the next step is really starting to build scale, right? Yeah. We really want to be the filter that people use for commodities related to electrification. So, think about it. If you're going to make an investment in any of these areas and you want to have exposure as an investor in electrification, you could go buy Tesla, right? That's one option. Yep. What we want to be is, for those that have a lower risk profile than that, maybe, and who have an understanding of the resource sector, we want them to say, well, let's look at what Windfall's doing. Let's look at the projects they're involved in, because we can do a level of due diligence based on our technology and our operational support that can give you as an investor more information and thereby make better decisions. And that's the long-term vision. And then our shareholders win because we're doing that hard work that it's frankly difficult for a retail investor to do. There's a lot of very technical stuff that you need to understand the resource industry. And I'm a smart guy and I don't understand it half the time. So I have a ton of respect for those of you, including you, Mike, who just kind of live and breathe this stuff. And so, there's that component. And then there's a diversification component, right? That if you are a investor in Windfall and you're part of our story, you're going to get a diversified exposure. So you get a piece of multiple projects, and you also get but you're buying a technology company, not a resource company. So there's intrinsic value in the business that we're in and the technology we're developing over time.
It's incredible how many investors I speak to, because I often engage with people and try to add clarity where there's some confusion. And it's incredible. People don't realize you guys currently, right now, have 21 active and ongoing exploration projects of companies who are going to validate your targets within the next 6 to 8 months. I mean, that's a lot of validation. That's a lot of hard work to put together 21 clients over a 2-year span. And you've got a portfolio that has grown exponentially already. How are you going to build on that portfolio? And is royalties in the discussion, or is that something that in special situations it'll be applied? How are you working that into your model?
So my mandate as chairman is to build value for my shareholders. Period. That's my mandate.
Good
and
answer.
how you build value for shareholders is you keep costs low, and you build large assets that are going to cash flow. It's a very simple formula. It's been there the same way forever. You don't even need to go to business school. You can just search what Warren Buffett does, and next thing you know, everybody knows. It's simple, right?
Yeah.
I think we overcomplicate things, right?
Yep.
As leaders and in businesses, we make things more complicated than they need to be. So, what are we going to do going forward? We're going to do those 3 things. We're going to contain costs. We're going to build our asset base by taking part in incredible projects under 3 models: direct equity participation, options if we in the form of either warrants or options, depending on the nature of our deal, or as a royalty tied specifically to the deal because we've generated the target. We're going to use all of those levers to try to maximize value to our shareholders. And where we don't see a viable, where we don't want to invest, because we are not going to turn away business, it doesn't mean that we're going to invest in every project. In those cases, we are going to leverage our services model to generate operating cash flows to cover our burn. So, the way I look at it, because I'm first and foremost an investor in Windfall, everybody can see what my position is. My goal is to increase the value of that position. And that's done by not using shareholders' capital to pay salaries. Instead, it's using shareholders' capital to invest in projects and ensuring that we're just taking in enough money that our burn is covered. So that's kind of, I'm a cheap guy in many ways. Like, I'm really cheap in my life. And, I very much am the guy that's going to hold on to every penny. Like, you're going to have to kind of grab it out of my cold hands. But the net is that I think that's a great discipline for companies like Windfall that are fundamentally technology based, because you don't need a lot of people, as I've indicated even on this call, to generate a lot of momentum. And so we're going to leverage technology, we're going to leverage advisors, and we're going to leverage a position as kind of that filter for this next phase of electrification to try to do those things.
Now you're bringing in a new CEO. I'm sure you've probably had some talks with some people. I know you can't say any names, but how are you feeling about that process right now?
I'm feeling very good. I am, to all our shareholders, I'm going to be very careful. This is a huge opportunity, in my opinion, and I want to make sure we have the right person, steering the ship. And until I have that level of confidence, I'm not going to just pull the trigger. I am very confident, by the way, and we should have some announcements very soon around the operations and around the technical side. I've had some, people in my network who I've worked with extensively before, who've delivered for me before, who are excited about the Windfall story and are going to be very, soon joining the team. We'll have some announcements about that fairly shortly. We have our list of advisors, because of the kind of the pivot on our business model is growing. So we have some very, very capable investors, as you've seen with 3D Capital. We have others as well that we're in active conversations with. And we have operational leaders, people who have taken resource from project to production. And so those folks are also starting to join our team in an advisory capacity. So I think what investors are going to see over the next couple of months is a radically different company structured around a very minimal burn, but with a very deep set of advisors who bring committed capital and experience to be able to evaluate these projects and then go and commercialize those projects.
Well, Dinesh, I absolutely love what you're doing with this company. I'm really looking forward to the expansion, some new additions to the management team, and applying your future business model. I can't wait to hear about some military efforts and some potential contracts there, or advancements with Draganfly for that matter. But thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Mike. I love talking to you, buddy. So it's great. And I really do appreciate your continued interest.
Well, on that note, let's do this more often then.
Let's make it happen.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.